Hey everyone, Aradon here. So, I have been getting some questions from family members and friends on why rockets need to go sideways to get into orbit and why they can't just go straight up to where there's no gravity and how that wouldn't work. So, I wanted to make a quick video to explain why that doesn't work and show it visually because I think that's the best way that you can learn. To do this, I've built this quick little rocket here. It's got Valentina Kerman up at the top. She's piloting, and we're going to see what happens, by example, if you were to just fly straight up, what would happen to your rocket. So we're going to go ahead and launch it now, and just watch what happens. Now, at the bottom right, you can see a little indicator. We'll say it's fuel. It's not, it's really delta V, which is something that's a little bit more complicated. Over here, you can see the altitude and what's called the apoapsis, which will show how high we are going into orbit with this fuel. And we'll be able to take a look at these different parts of it to see what's going to happen when we fly straight up. Now I've changed the camera over here to the orbit, or the Earth view, so you can see what's happening. And you see, even though I'm going straight up, my orbit is got a kind of curve here. And even though I'm getting higher and higher, you can see 45, 47 kilometers there, it's also curved. And that is because the Earth, or most bodies in the solar system, actually turn. And so even though I'm going straight up, the Earth is curving beneath me. Now, you can see I'm almost two-thirds finished with my fuel here, and the height of my total orbit is just going up and up, but you'll notice that I'm falling right back to where I came from, with a little bit of a difference because of the Earth's curvature, but even though I'm going up and up, I'm still just going to fall right back down. And that's because there's a common misconception when we see people in the International Space Station and stuff, they're all floating around even though they're in low Earth orbit, that there's no gravity in space. Unfortunately, that's not true because you've got the moon, which is held in place by gravity. You've got all the Earth stays in orbit around the sun because of gravity. Just because you go into space doesn't mean there's no gravity. And in fact, you can see because we haven't gone sideways, we've just gone straight up. Um, all we've done is gone away from Earth. And if we follow the trajectory that was shown previously, and I'm going to speed up time here so you can see what happens, we just go straight up and back down. It's like shooting a bullet up all the way in the air. Even if you got outside the atmosphere, it's going to come right back down to all of its fiery death. So that's why rockets don't go up straight up like that. We want to make sure that they go on a curve, and I'll show you a little bit why. Now, one question that one of my family members did ask me is, well, if that's the case, why don't we just keep going and keep going until we're away of Earth's gravity completely? And you can do that. I'm going to go ahead and reload from when we first got into space, and show what happens as you keep going. Okay, just wait for this to load here. So I'm going to detach the bottom part of the fuel tank. It's all extra weight anyway, since there's no more fuel left in it. And we are going to keep going with this top part of the rocket. Now, an interesting thing about rockets and why they stage them like this is a lot because they don't want to carry extra metal and extra things that aren't being used to propel them. But I'll talk about that in another video. Now you can see the apoapsis, or the trajectory of the orbit, is going further and further, and it's gone so far it is outside of the influence of the Earth's gravity, meaning that now, once it gets past this point, it'll no longer be pulled on the Earth as strongly as the Sun will. And you can see, now that I've escaped the Earth's gravity, I'm going to be stuck in orbit around the Sun. So, while this does work to get you out of Earth's gravity field, you would kind of be hopeless. You'd be out beyond the moon and beyond any hope of help or rescue. So you don't want to do that either. It is useful for going for other planets, but there's much more efficient ways. Just flying like that is not going to be very helpful. So, yeah, you'll be stuck out around the sun and either slowly getting very hungry or running out of supplies. So we're going to go ahead and revert this all the way to, um, we're going to revert this to where we were and instead of going straight up, I'm going to go ahead and go to the top of my trajectory, which we have here, and we are going to turn sideways instead. And I'm going to show you what's going to happen to the trajectory in the orbit as we go up and start to burn sideways instead. So I'm going to speed up time here so we can get all the way to the top. And we're going to burn. Now you've probably seen, I believe it was Newton, but he said if you had a big enough cannon, you could shoot a cannonball around the Earth so that the ball, as it's falling, would fall away from the curve of the Earth. And that's essentially what's happening with an orbit. Now, as I speed up, you can see my throttle's going up, and you can see that trajectory is going further and further away. It's no longer going straight up and down, but it's getting further and further away. This is kind of like that cannonball. I'm going faster and faster away, that I'm falling further away with the curve of the Earth. Okay? And as I go far and far enough away, eventually it will wrap all the way around the planet, and now the lowest part of my orbit is outside the atmosphere, and I am in an actual orbit around the Earth. I will never fall back into the atmosphere. Now, in real life, it's a little bit more complicated than this, but this is a nice, simple example to kind of learn how orbits work. The faster you speed up, the further, the more, how do you say, the further part of your opposite of orbit goes up and down. So this is what they do in orbits to circularize. Now, you can see here, I've used a lot of fuel to get circularized. So while you can go straight up and sideways, it is possible it wastes a lot more fuel than you're actually used to. So that is, while it's possible, it's not really efficient for you. So what I'm going to go ahead and do now is I'm going to go ahead and revert back to the same rocket, same launch pad, and we are going to show what happens when I start by turning and doing my gravity turn sooner and creating the circular orbit. We'll see how much fuel it saves. So I'll go ahead and speed this up right here. Okay, so we're just going to get this circularized here. And as you can see, we have used a lot less fuel than we actually used when we went straight up and then tried to circularize the orbit. So this is a really important part of saving fuel in this simulation or game. Again, it's pretty easy because the Earth is 10 times smaller than the actual Earth, but on real space scales, you want to be saving as much fuel as possible. So being efficient and doing those trajectories as efficiently as possible is going to make the world of difference. Anyway, I hope that this video has been able to answer your questions about space and orbits and why rockets need to go sideways instead of straight up. Um, Thank you for your support. And if you have any other questions, please leave them in the comments below. I'll see if I can make some new videos and explain them and go over them later. Take care.